Okay, so, you know, the old saying is early to bed, early to rise makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise. Well, that probably explains why I aren't any of those things. Because it's about 11:30 at night, I think now. Just walked from my house down the back way onto Parramatta Road and got some coffee, and I'm waiting here for the usual relative, but when he arrives I'll turn the mobile off immediately, because otherwise we end up with flowery language, and that can be a bit negative, to say the least. Bad language or four-letter words, etc. doesn't have to be negative. It really depends on in what context they're said, and who's saying it, and how you're saying it, and what the intention is behind it. So if someone is really angry and then that can be it's not like in fun, is it? So that's the thing. But I just thought I'd mention that anyway. But that's obvious, I suppose. But anyway, the early to bed, early to rise. It's about 11:30 at night, but I got early to bed, early to rise. Well, today it was late to bed and late to rise. So basically rising in reverse, rising as soon as the sun went down, etc. So there you have it. But of course we have daylight savings operating in Sydney, which means that it's a little bit different to how it should be anyway. But that's not really relevant. That's no excuse for my hours. But sometimes it's an advantage, because because if it's nighttime here, it's daytime somewhere else in the world, and some specific countries. I'm quite aware of that. So if you're trying to contact people from another country, you actually can't always contact. It's not always the right time to contact if it's night time. Because most people would probably be more early to bed, early to rise, or at least on a day time slot. They probably wouldn't be total night owls, So, but if you are wanting to contact someone from overseas, and it's daytime there, and they're like a reasonably normal person. No human being is normal at the present time, and probably never has been, I wouldn't think. But by comparison with the android race that populates this reality now, and that has populated it all along, but maybe in larger numbers now. Well, I have to say maybe, there's no doubt about that. It's just a question of how you will know them by the noise they make, by their actions, by what they do to you. But see, I got sidetracked by that sound. Oh, there's the ambulance going past. But they're all vehicles when they flash their lights too much. You see how I said you'll know them by the sound they make? Siren. and by how they affect you and by what they do to you. The flashing lights are annoying. They distract you. And as you can see, most of the authority type vehicles, or even those that you might think are a benefit to you, do have the sirens and the flashing lights. Now, whether they are necessary all the time is another question. As they are Android vehicles, and I say Android because that's like an artificial technical being, as opposed to a spiritual, natural human being. Perhaps the word natural might be stretched a bit far in this reality. I don't know I was about to say the technicalities, but I'm hesitant to even use that word. But we are in a totally technical matrix. So depending on how technical the actual matrix itself is, like what its material is, like what it's composed of, that probably means that even the spiritual human being might have to be slightly different while they're in this reality. That's me stretching my knowledge that I don't have and making out that I am more intelligent and know a lot more than what I do, to be honest. So, but hey, yeah, that's just also me realising that I don't know enough, but I like to keep it very real and very human and very simple and very natural, should we say. So I don't see a spiritual human being as technical, but they may have to. But it's quite possible that you are more technical in this reality than what you would normally be, or want to be, or should be. But that's why we're also very suppressed, I would think, and at our lowest possible level. I speak for myself there, so there could be others who might be at higher levels. As I've said before, that will depend on when the matrix has got you, how much you're able to get on top, how much from when you started here, like from when you're young. See, this is the thing. So if you're kind of ignorant most of your life, like I've been, and also misguided, and been negative even in your lifestyle and in your actions, at important times anyway. Maybe it's not all the time. See, that's what makes you a human being as opposed to the androids. They basically are negative all the time. They're negative. They don't have positive moments. They're not a positive being. They're an anti-positive entity. And I'm trying to be fancy using those words. I could just say, the flashing lights. But I could just say that they're like. Well, let me just say this: that even I myself am not sure, like, what the numbers are. I know that the numbers of spiritual human beings are very small. I know that just from my own area, okay? And I would imagine that it's similar across the world, but it may not be. It could be that some areas have really been taken over more for reasons too. There could be reasons, but it also just could be luck on part of the Matrix God and its disciples and followers and believers, whatever. I don't know if they're all exactly the same. They would be. They could be different. They could be different, or they could almost all be the same. But I would imagine that those that are closer to the God entity would probably be a little bit more in the know. But I don't even know that, because as they are all acting and all playing us and downloading all our thinking and all our feelings, everything that makes us a spiritual human being is being given to this android population. And I think that also includes those that I would have presumed to be human beings that have just become more psychopathic. Maybe it's ventured beyond that, I don't know, because they do download all the human thought. But then again, human beings are all connected to other human beings too, and they should be transmitting information to them. I feel that I'm not transmitting much information to my own humankind at all, but I know for a fact that everything that I think, say and do and feel and experience is downloaded directly onto the internet computer, the World Wide Web. The worldwide spider's web. That is the worldwide spider's web of the spider, which is the God entity that rules this matrix control reality. I'm shouting here and I don't even know what I'm saying. But either way, like I said, the point that I was going to make, if I can quickly, because I may not have much time here, and I'm sorry if I'm all over the place, because I'm kind of trying to be personal, but at the same time trying to make a video. So I'm in a double mind a lot of the time, when I actually make a video. The rest of the time I'm in a single mind, and I never think about so much the video thing. Of course, I have to think about the matrix in order to just so that I can fathom it out, so that I think I have some upper hand, almost, you could say, because, the matrix android machine reality, it is that really. That's the way of putting it, and that's how others would put it too. I was just going to say that I did put this, I was saying this the other day, but I think I'll probably delete the little video because it was only short, but, there was, I don't know who it was, but evidently, a relative of mine lives at this lodge, and there was a fellow that was staying there, and he went into the city, into the city of Sydney. And when he came back, he told people at the lodge that the city of Sydney was full of androids, and that they were very prominent in the heart of the city. That's like a few suburbs from where I am, but actually they're totally prominent here. They're prominent everywhere. But see, he was under that misapprehension that they'd taken over the heart of the city, because he was not familiar with them. He could just spot them, you see. Whereas when you're at a lodge where there may be a few real people, whereas in reality there's only a very few places where there are real people. And if you are probably at the lowest social level, you're probably more likely to be a real human. So if you are staying at some of the more affordable places to live, and you're more you don't have too many ties, life has dealt you a bad hand, shall we say, so you end up on the skids of Sydney in the cheaper places to live, because you have no ties either. You probably don't have much connection to family, you are not married, all this sort of thing, so you are staying in, rooms in boarding places, in lodges and different things, for that reason. So, but at any rate, this fellow made that comment to some of the people at the lodge, and I believe, I was told by my relative, that a few days later he was, put into, one of the mental institutions or whatever, psychiatric facilities, because, they thought that that was like a sure sign of psychosis or insanity, whatever you want, In reality, this whole, the androids that he was speaking of, see, he was in touch with reality. They were saying he was out of touch with reality and psychotic, but really he was in touch with reality because the city of Sydney is full of artificial android beings. And even if you take it that a large amount are psychopathic types, which is the same thing in a way, because the android technical beings are psychopathic from a human standpoint, because they have no connection to a human being in their mind. They don't see human beings as human. They just see them as something to use, and most of them, if they are the narcissistic psychopathic type, which is probably what is the vast majority, I have thought for a fair while now, that's even at a real level. It doesn't matter, because it's the same mentality. Even if you're a human being and you're psychopathic, and you are narcissistically psychopathic, shall we say, because that's where you need to take human beings down. You need to bring them down. You need to hurt them, suppress them, etc. Any way you can, any way that makes them unhappy, and so that they can't be content and live a normal life. That's essentially it, because that then makes you feel better. So it makes that person feel better about themselves, and it actually gives them a boost. It gives them energy, because they are very lacking in energy because they're so negative. They lack the energy, and that's how they kind of get it. I don't know if I explained that well. It's a bit hard to comprehend, in the sense that it's the reverse. All you have to really think is that, as we've said before, that this is a reverse reality. So basically they're the reverse of a spiritual human being. They're the reverse of a human being, even if you're not very spiritual. Because you can get some people that don't consider them, like I never considered myself spiritual, but I didn't particularly take joy in hurting other people or hurting other life forms, whereas they do particularly take joy in it. They get energy out of it. You may not take joy in helping another human being or seeing other human beings real happy. It may, you might be a bit more indifferent. I would say that I was a little bit more indifferent a lot of my life, but at the same time, I would have to admit that I didn't socialise a lot to where I experienced seeing human beings in distress a lot, and I probably avoided that because it might have actually made me feel negative and whatever too, especially if it's someone that you don't know well, that hasn't done you any harm. My father used to always say, well, if you can't do anyone any good, don't do them any harm. But actually, that was a funny comment coming from him. Because in a way, if you are of that psychopathy, I use that word because it's fancy and it fits. It just simply means that that you are not of the you're a cold human being. You're cold to the human feelings of the higher emotions, shall we say. Whereas a normal, real human being is warmer. That's the best way I can describe it without being too mushy, shall we say, because, I could be like the android demigods that make videos about life and about love and about all these things. Basically, they download our thinking and our feelings in a psychological way to where they appear. That's the whole idea, to make the computer appear, and the artificial technical intelligence, which is really just a downloading of human thinking and consciousness, shall we say. That's really all it is. I see this with my own eyes every day. Otherwise, I wouldn't think that. I would think that it was I'd probably think, oh, well, there's no harm in it because it is human beings' ideas and thoughts, you'd say. But the point is, the real human beings that this thought is being taken from are being downtrodden and suppressed. They are not the demigods or the ones that you see on the computer or the experts that talk about all these things. No, they are your android technical beings that are downloading the human thought and then pushing the human being that they have downloaded that thought into the ground, and actually sometimes even pushing them out of the matrix, shall we say. In other words, getting rid of them completely. That's putting it very bluntly. You can say what you like, but that's the bottom line of it. I see this every day myself because I see it being done. So does that make the computer superior? Should we be looking up to this android technology? No, but we will, because we will see it as more human than human, because it is emulating the human. It is basically downloading all the human thought and consciousness. Or mind, if you like. Is that the right word? I try to have to impress because I'm making a video. But, consciousness just to me means that that's just your mind, everything that you're thinking and feeling. Because, and I emphasise the feeling and the emotion, and I've emphasised that for a long time, because that is the main difference between the computer mind. Even low, to be honest, even the mind of the computer is still from a human being. But without the emotional content, a lot of people wouldn't relate to the computer so much and wouldn't be as friendly towards it. So that is the seduction of it. That is the God entity and its technical group of beings that are the entire earth, really, or most of the earth now. So when I say a group, it's like, it's most of the earth population. It's just that I'm lost for words to describe it, and I'm trying to find a word that's appropriate, that gets the idea, but also that impresses a bit. Whereas I can't think of it, unfortunately. But when I do, they'll probably download it onto the computer. So, it's like that. And then you say, oh yeah, the computer's good because look, there's all those real human people that talk on the computer. Well, look, to be honest, I shouldn't say to be honest too, because I saw that downloaded the other day, that if you say to be honest too much, it probably means you're a psychopath and not honest. So they got me there too. But I just thought I'd throw that in because it's the end now. So basically, even I don't overly care, if people don't see it as, like, what difference does it make if a few people see me as real or not, I suppose. It's up to them. But that is the end game. So it is kind of important only in the sense that, like, it wouldn't matter even if it was just personal. Well, it matters to me if it's personal, but it wouldn't matter to the entire earth if it was just personal. But because of the way things really are, because of the limited numbers and because of the reality that there's only a limited number of real humans left in this Earth matrix now, and that the rest is all the android psychopathic beings, the personal is also the matrix in a way, so it does actually, but as a human being you can't help but go for the personal anyway, so it should really help the matrix, but it's not working out at the present time because of people like myself that have trouble communicating, have trouble because of past experience maybe, or your own limitations and the matrix limitations. And I'm just trying to be reasonable here, but you can't put in the full effort at a personal level that you would like to, that you need to. You just can't. You can't do it. So you're sort of you're not only letting yourself down, and maybe you think you might be letting others down, but essentially you're mainly letting yourself down in the sense that that's what you really want anyway. It's not even about a necessity for the matrix. Up until a year and a half ago, say, about that time, I was mainly more concerned with saving, not saving the matrix. Well, saving the matrix only so that I save my own reality, so that basically I can live in a livable world, because it's unlivable for a human being. And so you're thinking, can you change it before you're finished? Because you're finding it hard to hang on anyway in this reality, And of course you did want to be able to live, even like you lived, in the past, where it seemed to be, even though it was really suppression even then, because you're always suppressed from the minute you come into the matrix if you're a real human being. That's the name of the game, really. But because it's now the end, and if you are wanting to live a little bit more, and if you wake up to the psychopathic reality, the psychopathic android reality, whether you think it's humans who have gone psycho, of course it is both, but is it both? It is where you have artificial android psychopathic beings. You know, but also you could have human beings who have just developed that way, or whatever, so that the possession takes place, and it amounts to the same thing. And I don't know what the numbers would be in that situation. So in other words, I wouldn't know. But either way, if you know psychopathic people, which you probably do, especially if they're close to you and you're interacting with them, they will be doing the work of the Matrix God just as much as the android technical beings. In fact, you could almost leave them with the human beings, and the same situation would be taking place. That the human being would be pushed down and would always be feeling negative and suppressed and angry, and never with a high frequency or vibration giving out, and therefore never connecting contentedly with your own kind, in other words, another real spiritual human being, where you have potential for a little bit of contentment, even in this reality, even if it's a matrix, even if it's a controlled, very negative reality. Because you're never going to get on top of it on your own, not unless you've already got to a higher spiritual level, to where you're impervious to all the negative energy that the matrix will throw at you and will level at you. I'm not sure how all that works. I'm not sure if you are more immune to the physical attacks if you are at a higher spiritual level. I would think you would have some edge, but I don't know that. Would you still experience physical pain? Would it be the same or would it be less? That's the question. Would the emotional problems be as great? You would assume that if you were at a higher spiritual level that you would be able to deal with the emotional and mental issues created for you by the matrix android control beings, or even the psychopathic relatives that you may encounter. When I say that relatives, I mean like those that are of your own kind, and that could literally be a relative too, but I just mean your own kind by relatives, which is also the term that I would use when I say, that the Matrix God has his followers, believers, relatives, and disciples, but they're all the same thing, because, if you're a close relative, you'll be all those things, that's what the Matrix God would desire, and I would imagine that would be the case with any God, You would tend to, you're supposed to kind of follow blindly. But I'm overstepping my knowledge here, and I actually realise that, so I shouldn't say too much there. I don't know enough about this being. I only see those around me in action against me. But like I say, if you're out of touch, you will be part of the matrix. But if you're in touch, you will see the reality. But like I say, the matrix beings, because they are the bulk of what is inhabiting the earth now. If they see that you're in touch, and that's right, you say, oh yes, the city of Sydney is full of androids, they will class you as out of touch and see to it that you don't that you're not allowed to just wander around and even make those comments, even though most people would probably think it was outrageous. If you're in the dark and you are a real human being, but you are not really, you're still in the matrix, but you believe the matrix is a real earth, and you believe that all the people around you are real human beings like yourself, that they have the same mindset. It's just that you might think, oh, well, some people are a bit negative because they've had a negative life, which is the explanation I would have said for most people, even including myself. You always say, well, it's just the life that makes a person even a bit psycho. But, that is not really the case if you are a technical artificial being. You actually don't have that capacity. You're not really, you are a different type, totally. And that makes sense. I mean, doesn't it? Like if you have, like if you have, an artificial, I think that the trick of the matrix is to convince even real human beings that a technical, artificial, intelligent being is comparable to a real human being, especially if human beings are convinced that they're just a mind and that their intelligence and mind is the main thing. That is also if you have lent more and become more psychopathic, you see. That's the thing, because then your feelings towards your own kind are very limited or negligible, as they say, so you have none of that, or so little that it's not enough to put you, you will lean then towards the artificial intelligence. I have to go, my son's just